So I have made some updates to the page. The all sky camera has a link on here. So this is the current all sky camera view. If you want to see the movies, you click here, and basically the movies from whatever night will play on it. So just everybody's got access to this, so that's pretty cool. There was some Aurora.
I do expect a
pops up in
token
here.
dollar every time you buy one.
Millionaire for me, that's for sure.
I did add weather. So I added the clear sky chart from Cheyenne. Plus this is my weather station that is now on the observatory. So you can see if it's daylight, what the wind is like, humidity, and all that kind of good stuff. It's not perfect. It doesn't give you exact cloud forecast because it really works best at night, because that's what it's for. It basically puts out a single, a one-line weather file, just like a Bolt would or any of those other ones. At the end of it, it has safe or unsafe written. It's one word, and all of my photography software for astrophotos can read that file. And if they see the word unsafe, then they basically, it triggers an action within the software to go do something like close the roof or put up the wall or park the scopes or whatever it is. So that's what it's for, but it's nice to have so you can still see the sky conditions. It's showing that it's cloudy right now and all that good stuff.
Nothing else, it's probably better to post-mortem afterwards once the pictures didn't come out like you'd hoped.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Oh,
You could
gee.
go back and look at the history of it. You can check all the logs and everything too. So anyway, the website's updated with that stuff on it, just in case you care. And then, of course, the calendar, I updated all the events. The meetings are in here as well. So anyway, thought I would throw that out there. Anything else we need to discuss? Why is that in my face? It's a little unnerving. All right. Anyway, I thought it would be nice to go back through and do some processing stuff. I did want to talk about kind of what it is instead of just like kind of just running through the process and going, hey, pretty picture. But I did want to talk a little bit about what the process actually means, because we talk about stacking pictures all the damn time, and it's like, well, what does that actually mean, right? So I do have some notes here. All right, so I'm sure most of you understand, because you have a really nice camera on the back of your phone these days, what a digital picture is, right? Basically a CCD. It's got a bunch of different pixels across it, and those pixels have a well depth on them, basically how many light photons they can record before they are whited out. The deeper it is, the better it is for especially for astrophotography. But if we were to take something, let's grab, let's see, I know it's around here somewhere. I have a folder, okay. So this is a night's worth of images. We'll start with the light frames. So these are the pictures that I took. They are 300 seconds long. They're bin 1, which means each individual pixel is basically being recorded as one thing. You can see the gain is 111 on the camera. None of that matters too much, but let's go ahead and pull in one of those pictures and have a look at what that actually looks like. And we'll pump the size up a little bit, and then we'll just give it a big stretch. So that is a single image of the crescent. So 6888, I think is the right number for that one.
Looks like a thumbprint on your lens to me.
Right. So you can see a couple of things in here. One is if we really dive in, you could see some very, very specific noise patterns. Right. So what you're looking at here are all the individual pixels, plus you're also looking at the Bayer matrix. So does everybody know what a Bayer matrix is at this point? No?
That's your mask.
Yeah, so basically on a color camera, which this is, it's not a black and white camera, it is a color camera. You take a 4-pixel square and you assign red to 1 pixel, blue to another pixel, and green to 2 pixels. So that's an RGGB Bayer matrix. And that is how it determines its color. So basically it's doing the color filtering for you. If you had a black and white camera, you would have to have red filters, green filters, blue filters, and luminance filters for that matter. And then you would have to take a shot of red, a shot of green, a shot of blue, a shot of red, a shot of green, a shot of blue. You'd have to take all these pictures individually. Well, with color camera, I don't have to bother with that because they've basically made a 4 square of pixels into a red, green, green, and a blue. So the question is, why so much green?
Center of visual.
But it's very important to have green when we're looking out here, right? Green's very important outside and to us visually. It's not so important in the sky, but it just didn't change it. So it's still RGGB for all of these cameras. So anyway, that's kind of what you're looking at there. You're also looking at amp glow. So this particular camera is a ZWO ASI 183 camera, and it has an amp glow. So basically there's a component fairly near the chip. It produces some heat. The chip interprets that as light, and then you get these interesting patterns that run through your photos.
The longer exposure, the worse that gets.
Right. So at 300 seconds, it's pretty obvious that it's there. So what you do about that is you have calibration frames. So the first one is, let's go look at bias frame. And let's go grab a bias frame and drop it in here. And we will open that up. Usually I have 2 screens, so this is kind of weird working this way. So there is a bias frame. And if I nuke the hell out of that, you can see it's just noise. And what that is the read noise of the chip itself. So this is as short a picture as I can possibly take with that camera. It's like 0.001 milliseconds, whatever it is. So it's an instantaneous read of the camera. Take about 10, 15 of those, blend them all together so you get a nice look at what it means to read the noise off of that camera. So every single solitary camera has read noise. And that's what that is. That's what a bias frame is. So let's set that to the side for a second. Okay, and then let's go grab a dark frame. So a dark frame, what?
You try to drag the folder. I think you
Oh.
want to go in. There you go.
Sorry, I was trying to drag the whole damn thing. Okay, so that's better. All right, so this is a dark frame. And you're going to see something very familiar here in a second. There's that amp glow. So the whole point of a dark frame is if your chip has some form of glow to it, if it has some sort of background noise that it creates in a long exposure, you're going to want to take a similar or basically the exact. So this is also 300 seconds, so it's 5 minutes. So I took 5-minute light frames, and this is a 5-minute dark frame. So this dark frame is basically a mirror of what I'm going to get on my normal frame. So, and that's what this is here.
So with the lens cap on, it's everything but the data.
Yep. And you take bias frames with the lens cap on, you take dark frames with the lens cap on, right? So that's the whole point of this is you're taking a picture of your chip's characteristics and you're going to blend those out later. So we can minimize that too. There's one more type, and to be fair, I don't know the formula for the math on this one, so we're not going to do it, but we can look at it. So this is a flat frame. And flat frames are basically patterns. So if I can nuke that a little bit, actually looked better without it, didn't it? But you see, oops, that right there. That is a dust bunny, right? So inside of my imaging chain somewhere, there's a piece of dust. It could be on the lens, it could be on the camera's, filter cover, it could be on the filter, it could be on all sorts of things, right? There's a lot of places that could end up being. And in this one, there's one here, there's a little smaller one there, a couple up there. These aren't too terribly bad, Right, this is a fairly clean setup, so that's not too bad. So we'll set him to the side. So the normal process is I'm going to come up here and I am going to open up a process called Pixel Math. And Pixel Math is very simply just math against the pixel. So if I perform Pixel Math from one frame to another frame, I'm basically comparing, the top left corner, bottom right corner, all those. It's going to do exact math on the exact same pixel. So it has to be the same camera as well. It's got to have the exact same resolution. Everything's got to be exactly the same. So location 0, 1 is going to be 0, 1 in the calibration frame as well. And 275, 60 and 275, 60 have to match. I'm going to do exact math against the exact same pixel.
You need
across
the same
every one of
environment,
these.
you take the same temperature.
Yeah, you need to get the temperature correct and everything, right?
For
Because-
the long frames, yeah,
Yeah.
it matters, right?
Yeah,
the
for
bias
sure.
frames,
Yeah, the bias frames you get away with, and I would say the flat frames you kind of want it to be the same. You want the same reaction, right, across that. So it's good to take those frames at the same time that you're actually taking the
I think to
pictures.
point out when you do the light frames, what do you use as a light source? Just explain what you're doing.
For this telescope, which is my 91 millimeter, I actually have a light panel. So I put the scope up to zenith. I drop the light panel on top of it, and then I basically use an algorithm to get to a certain, just a certain brightness that I'm
Right, you
looking
want
for.
the peak about a third of the way.
Yeah, about a third of the way over. And that gives me a nice, reasonably decent looking setup. So the best way for this is I'm going to calibrate the dark frame to the bias frame. So I'm going to subtract out the noise of the read from the dark frame. So the easiest thing to do is come in here into Pixel Math, and I'm going to create a super basic formula. I am just going to take the dark frame, which is that one, and I'm going to subtract out the bias frame.
I'm curious why. Because the bias, all the noise for the read data is in there, but that means you've got all the noise. You compare that to the lights,
Yeah, but it's
it's just one frame.
right. It's that frame though. It's one singular instantaneous frame. I just want to get the read noise out of the dark frame. Right. I don't want to multiply this across several different types of frames. So I'm going to calibrate the dark frame, and then I'm going to calibrate the light frame with the dark frame. If you do both, it basically just takes everything to black. So the way Pixinsight works is it literally calibrates all of everything against your bias. So that's just the way Pixinsight does it. And it seems to work pretty well here. Although, this is a very basic explanation of what's going on, right? I'm not doing anything too crazy here. So basically, I just that's my formula. Then I'm going to click on the dark frame and run it. Why are you grabbing it? Go. Nope, did the wrong one. Fine. I'll open that up. Click there and run it. Okay, so basically that is my now calibrated dark frame. He has far less noise in him, and he's ready to be used for other stuff. So what I will do now is take this out. Apparently I can't hit a single button on my keyboard. I'll take that out. Go back to Expression Editor, click up here, and I'm going to take my light frame and I'm going to subtract out my new dark frame. So I'll leave this one up, and if you watch real careful here, once I hit the button, bam, it's gone. Just that fast. So there's a lot more averaging that goes on, a lot better math than what I just did in the normal processing of this. But I just wanted to give an example of what it looks like to calibrate out some of that garbage. Yeah, I get rid of that. I'll get rid of a bunch of these. Okay, so now I have a somewhat reasonably calibrated single frame, but it is black and white. So the process of debayering is basically going back to all those pixels, taking the filtered values and then applying it back to the picture. So I can actually debayer this right here using the debayer. And I can just literally just click. It will run the process, and then what I end up with is a very, very green picture. So I'll stretch that out, and now you get a very green picture because there are 2 green pixels for every red pixel and every blue pixel. So the cool thing about this is you can fix that. So let me run up here. I'm going to pull out my tools. I have my own process icons that I built for this. So I've got kind of a list here, but I want to look at and talk about what is exactly a histogram. So if I was to pull up this picture in the histogram, you can see it's way slammed against the left side here. So what a histogram basically equals is the left side is black, the right side is white. So you don't want black, you don't want white, you want something in the middle. You want some amount of gradient in your actual image. So if I jack this up, you can see that the green far surpasses the red and the blue. It's very interesting that the blue's up that high, but there is a really interesting bluish green component to this particular object. So if I wanted to, I could just kind of fix this a little bit. I can click on the red and I can pull him into there, and I can click on the blue and I can pull that into there, and then I take that and that will somewhat reasonably fix that picture and kind of color balance it. It's not perfect, it's not right, but there is a way to get it perfect and right. So I'm going to close that histogram and I'm going to hit the back button. That's one of the nice things about Pixinsight, this particular program I'm using, is that I don't have to take whatever changes, because if I don't like it, I just hit the back button and I'm back to where I was. So the process I'm going to use here, which is far better, is called spectrophotometric color calibration. So this picture has a solution on it. When it was processed and stacked, or when it was taken in the first place, a photometric solution was built into it, basically put into the metadata. So this application knows exactly where he's pointed. He knows the pixel scale, he knows what's in the picture, he knows what stars are supposed to be there. So he's going to go look at a database of stars, and he's going to look at these stars and he's going to match the colors. So he's going to color calibrate this photo using the actual colors of the stars based upon the charts or the database for that matter. So I am going to put in what filter was used here, because I did use a filter for this.
So if a star is yellow, it knows he's yellow, and he's gonna make all the colors so
Yep.
it comes out yellow.
Yeah, he's going to match everything up pretty well. Usually I would pick a region of interest around here, but to be fair, there's a crap ton of red around this thing. So if I pick a piece of sky, it's going to kind of skew the values incorrectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it do its job, which it does pretty quickly. The databases are all downloaded onto the computer. It doesn't have to go out to the internet to get them. So that's the value of having a little bit of hard drive, is that you can just download everything. Okay, so he is done. So now I have a fairly color calibrated image at this point. If I really jack him up, like really push, this image looks pretty decent. I don't see any kind of gradients across it. I don't see like light in the corners and it going dark to the other corners or whatever. So I'm not going to actually do any kind of gradient correction on this particular picture because it just doesn't need it. So the interesting thing is I've been kind of hitting these little nuclear buttons up here, and that puts just a giant stretch on the picture. It just stretches the light out. from black to white, right? It's stretching it out really big. But just understand this picture actually looks like that. I haven't actually done anything to it. I've just said, let me view it in a stretched way, right? So I just kind of want to see what's in the picture itself.
Of course, the more you stretch it, the more noise you get.
Well, that's exactly right. And also understand that this is one frame. This is not a stacked image, right? I have not actually integrated this image. So in addition to this singular image, I also have in this folder, I have roughly about 60 different frames. So I've recorded 60 pictures across the night. And I've also done a process called dithering. So I have moved around, because if you don't move around, then the noise of the chip becomes walking noise across the picture. And it's kind of annoying to see.
Or hot pixels will stay. in
Hot
one
pixels
place.
stay very, very hot. You have to go correct them by hand, and it's a real pain in the butt. So in this case, basically, I'm just dithering. I'm letting the mount move around a little bit so that he records the pictures on these pixels, and he records them on those pixels and these pixels, and he just kind of wanders around the sky. Not a lot. Usually 3 to 5 pixels is plenty. Just enough to get rid of the pattern of noise of your chip. So at some point, you have to register these pictures. You have to realign them all. So it uses the bright stars and it puts everything back together, and it just shifts all the pictures so that they sit right on top of each other. And that creates basically what we call a stacking artifact. So I'm going to close that. So these are the output pictures that it created. It did create a master bias, a master dark, and a master flat out of the 10 to 15 or 20 images that I took. It creates a flattened version of that it can use to calibrate the light frames. But it creates basically, let's see, so this is my master light. And if I pull that picture in, I don't need to look at all of this. I just need to look at the master light frame. So get rid of that one and that one. And if I nuke that, and it's kind of hard to see with the green cast. Let's get rid of the green cast real quick. So once again, I'm going to run the color calibration based upon the stars. So yours will be faster than this. It better be, or you should be really pissed.
It's a screamer. I can't wait to.
Okay. Okay, so now that I stretch that out, you can see there's a lot more stuff here now because I've stacked a lot of images. But I also have some artifacting in the edges. And that is an artifact of the dithering. Right? So I've got these weird edges. The corners don't look perfect. And that is strictly because of the dithering. It's had to realign all these pictures, and I end up with this noise on the corners. So you can cut that out. It's not that big a deal. You can come in here and you can just basically cut all those edges off. Pixinsight, as part of the stacking process, does that for you, and it also redoes the plate solve. It goes back through and it refines all of the data you need to properly process this image. It knows where the stars are. It knows the pixel scale again, all that other good stuff. So there is a pre-cropped picture in this folder. Oops. Which is that one. So if we pull this one in, okay, we get rid of the crop mask that it built, jump it back up, nuke the death out of it, correct colors again. And remember, that nuking of it does not change it. I'm just viewing it in that way. So I'm not ruining the picture by just doing crazy stuff to it. All right, so there is my new picture. And if we look up on these edges, there are no weird stacking artifacts left. So basically it's just cropped all that nonsense off for you. And then it's rerun the plate solve, and now it knows everything about that picture. But once again, that picture still looks like that. That's what the actual picture looks like. So the process is pretty standardized for me. It's really different for everybody and your tastes, for sure. But for me, the first thing I do is once I get this image, I want to color correct it. Because the stars are there, I want to color correct it with the stars in the image. So I've already done that. Once again, there isn't a gradient in here. I don't see like Cheyenne lights, basically creating a weird gradient. There's no moon, there's no anything here creating a weird gradient across this frame. So I'm going to leave that alone. I have bought some tools here. So I have blur exterminator, star exterminator, and noise exterminator. They are not free and they are not cheap, but they are worth their weight in gold. We'll run blur exterminator real
It's
quick.
funny.
and we
I had
can
the
have a
same
look.
thought, but compared to the cost of a telescope and all the equipment.
Oh, God,
this
it's
stuff
cheap.
is cheap.
Yeah,
right?
it's
So if
cheap.
you want to get good pictures and you're worried about spending.
Yeah, at some point, it's like I'm catching crap. So I'm looking at Nina to operate the telescope and the roll-off roof observatory and the weather station and all of that other stuff. And my buddy out in Utah is like, you spent all this money and you're going to go cheap on the automation software. It's like,
But
God
Nina's
damn it,
awesome.
I don't know. You should play with Voyager. Nina looks like a joke after you play with Voyager.
So you're moving everything to Voyager.
I'm probably going to end up with Voyager. So let's zoom in on a couple of stars here. So this is one of the real benefits of Blur Exterminator. I'm going to back that off. And basically what it's doing is it's just kind of shrinking the stars a little bit. It's not playing with the nebula very much at this point because there's too much other stuff to do. But if you go into the corners, not every telescope is perfect. And you can see that those stars are not round. Right? They're close, but they're not round. Blur Exterminator will fix that for you. So that's one of the benefits of that piece of software as well. We can come look at this corner. Same deal. Those are even worse. So the center is pretty good, but the corners aren't great. So basically it's cleaning up some of the crappy stars that I have from that refractor.
So if there's any, it'll fix a little bit of coma or whatever your
Yeah, it does.
refractor or.
It absolutely does
Did
fix
not
some
know
of that.
that.
And that was a new feature a couple of iterations back.
Oh, that's.
It's probably been a year, I bet. And this corner is actually pretty good. It's just shrinking them up a little bit. But this is the right time to do it before you actually do anything to it, right? So this, once again, this is what it looks like. And this is just me trying to see what I've got for data. And you can see there's quite a bit of noise in here as well, but this is not the right time to get rid of the noise yet. Or at least, in my personal opinion, in what I've done, it is not the right time to get rid of the noise. So the next process for me is if I process this image and I try and bring out detail on it, the stars are going to get too bright. So I want to get rid of the stars, and that is what Star Exterminator's for. So I'm going to just pull that tool in there, and he is going to run through and give me two pictures. One that is only stars and one that is only nebula. So, and I'm going to rename these, and that's going to come into play here in a little bit. So I'm going to set that stars image aside. And if I restretch this, you can see there's no stars here anymore. So now all I have is a
Brilliant.
starless image. So I'm just going to rename those because I'm going to do some math on them in a little bit to put the stars back. And they need to be named a certain thing for me to use my pre-built icons here. So once again, it looks like that. Right? So I haven't done anything to it. I have tried using generalized hyperbolic stretch, and I find that I am retarded with it. And excuse the use of the word, but that is exactly how I am with it. I never get what I want. I don't know where to pick, the points to start stretching at. It just never works. I followed every single YouTube video from the guy who wrote it and I still can't get it right. So honestly, at this point, I just don't use it. I use it for stars. I do not use it for nebula. What I do is I open up a histogram. I pick the image, so starless. You can see it pops up here on the very, very edge. And I want to select RGB at this point because I want to affect everything. And I'm just going to put a basic stretch on this. I'm going to use the histogram to pull this image basically out into the middle instead of having it all smashed up into the blacks. So, and you can see there is a nice little break here. So this camera was actually, I did actually take these pictures correctly because they're not slammed at all the way to black. So that's good. That's shockingly by accident back when I did this, because this is one of the first things I took.
Better lucky than good.
Yep. So I'm just going to start pulling the mid-tone slider over and taking these changes little bit by little bit. So, and I want to be careful that I don't actually take out anything that's real. So that's why I'm kind of sneaking up on it. I don't want to just smash it all together and say, that's it. I kind of want to sneak up on the edges so that I can then, well, I'll show you in a second. I'll show you what I do. All right, so I'm going to take that change. Now that I'm roughly here and I've got a nice histogram out here that I can see, I'm going to jack this thing up pretty healthily, about 17 to 20, somewhere in that range. And then I'm going to bring it back down here so I can see that data. And I can already see that I've gone too far. And I'm going to pull that back a little bit. And I'm going to pull the blacks right up to there. I'm going to take that last change. And that is as much data as I want to get out of that picture. Everything from here on out is tweaks, right? So that's the full amount of data that I have in that picture. And I don't want to do any more to it. So at this point, if you look, there is still some noise here, and I can hit a bigger stretch on that. You can see that there's still a bunch of salt and pepper noise in there. So you can, at this point, use Noise Exterminator. And the reason I'm not adjusting anything on these tools is because they're all AI based, and they do a far better job of tweaking on these pictures than you ever could, or at least that I can. So in my personal opinion, I just think they're better at it than I am, and I kind of let them do it. So let's click that. So there is my new basically denoised picture. It hasn't taken everything out. It does a subtle change, but you can see there's before and there's after. If I go over to the nebula itself, I can look at the before and the after. And I don't really feel like I'm losing anything here. The AI tool is doing a pretty good job of preserving what's actually there. So that's what we got. Shrink that a little bit. All right, so that is basically what I have at this point. And now I'm going to play with the curves at this point. So just if you've ever used Photoshop on anything weird, then you've used curves. Just because that's the best place to do it. So I'm going to open up the curves window. I'm going to make sure I'm on RGB because I don't want to just affect red, green, or blue. I want to affect everything at this point. And I'm going to create a contrast curve, just like you would on any photo that you're going to play with in Photoshop or any other photo editing tool. I'm going to come up here about somewhere in this range. And I'm going to pull that up a little bit. And I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to pull this right back to here. So I don't want the blacks to come up at this point. I just want the bright things to come up. So I'll create a little bit of a curve here. And you can see as I start to, I didn't do that very well, did I? So if you don't like it, go ahead.
You're not clipping anything now, right?
I'm not clipping at this point, right? Because I haven't really gone anywhere.
Drag the end point of
I
that
can,
curve over, you would clip.
right? So if this does that
Yeah.
up at the top, then I'm clipping,
Okay.
right? So I do want to get some of that mid-tone. So I may actually pull lower down here and try and pull that way. And see what that gets me. So there's a lot of dark in here. That's the other thing too. This isn't like you're processing a picture of a landscape. There's a lot of dark here. So if you want the detail out of the darks, you're going to have to pull on those darks. You're going to have to get that data and pull on it. So I usually pick a couple of curves. I can come down here nice and low, and you can see this data starting to come up out of the background over here. What I want to be careful of is I don't want to crush these bright areas, because it's pretty easy to crush this bright data. So you want to be very careful with your curves and that you're being very delicate about it as you go through. So I can take that and know that every time you look at this, it's predicting what you're going to get for it, right? So you haven't ruined it by doing that, right? That's not ruined, because I haven't taken that change, right? I haven't done it. So in this case, I want to keep working through certain parts and pulling out other bits, just creating contrast. And I want to be subtle about it, and I don't want to do anything crazy. I really want to be careful, because I don't want to burn this out. And it's super easy to do.
Of course, you can put a mask over it.
You can, and there are lots of tools here for that. Matter of fact, that's actually a good thing. Let's play with some masking tools. So Pixinsight has some basic tools for doing it, which I do like. The ACD&R mask is basically a brightness mask, and I can put a brightness mask up here.
Luminosity mask.
Right. So let's duplicate this, and I'll click on that, and I'm going to hit preview. And I can sit there and tweak on this and kind of just say, I want the bright stuff, but I don't want these midtones, and I don't want the shadows, right? I really just want these bright things. And you can be as crazy with this as you want to, but really what I'm trying to avoid is burning out mainly this spot right there, because it seems to be the brightest spot. So I can pull a little bit more of that, make that change, and then I have just convolution. I used that's a preview. You can't deconvolve a preview because it doesn't want to. And if that's not soft enough for you, you can always just drag it on there again and really soften it up. You don't want a hard edge on that filter, because then it's going to be really obvious that you've done a filter. In Pixinsight, you just drag the filter onto the edge and it applies it. So everything that's sitting here in red is basically filtered. If I open up curves and open up a preview, it looks normal. But when I go to affect it, most of the changes are not going to affect the bright parts down in here. It's just going to work on the things that are not masked. So you have a little more leeway at this point to play with this. Contrast. That's not too bad. Just take that. And once again, you want to sneak up on this. You don't want to just jump all over it and say, here's my one change, it's done. You want to play with it, because you want to see what you get for certain things. So in this case, I really do want to get some of those blacks down, but I don't want to lose what I've got, what I've pulled out of the background. So I can make these little contrast curves.
It's really an art form, isn't it?
It is, and it's such an art project that I don't think I've gotten the same results twice. And I've processed a lot of these several times, and I'm certain I have not gotten the same results
A lot of
ever.
folks online say, but I just want to get it right.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, there is no right here.
Yeah,
There's absolutely no right here.
It's definitely a personal preference what you like too.
So, and I don't want to take out so much dark that I lose this, because this stuff's real. This is not noise in the background. This is real stuff. I probably interstellar dust in some fashion. or it could be ionized hydrogen, who knows. But this stuff is real. But what I'm really trying to get is this oxygen shell right in here, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. So I like the contrast there. I'm not sure I want to toy with that anymore.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, it looks okay. It could be a little more colorful, but once again, this is probably reasonably accurate, but I can go over here. So this is the saturation tab, and I can pull in the saturation a little bit and take a couple of those, just a nice little subtle change, and see if I can pull some of that detail out. So now I've got some color contrast, right? So I don't think I want to do any more than that. There's a luminance filter. You can work on luminance. There's all sorts of stuff within here in this particular application. I've got hue changes you can make, which I don't tend to use that one. If I'm doing narrowband work, I tend to find myself in here using this, but these colors don't work well with that. So I don't generally use those different tools. I use the saturation and the color, and occasionally, if I really want to pull something specific, I can come over here and pull other stuff. But it's usually better if you're masked to do that stuff, which I am masked. Right, I'm still masked. And you can do some interesting stuff with masks. I can invert that mask. Now, if I want to, I can come back into curves, open up a preview, and now I'm just affecting the things that previously were masked. So I can take a little bit of color saturation and see if I can't improve a little bit more of this. But I don't want to go too crazy, because then it gets like green, and it's just weird. So anyway, I'm actually not terribly unhappy with that mask, and let's just remove that. So that's what I'm looking at right now, and that's pretty decent, and I'm not sure I want to toy with that anymore. So what we're left with is a picture of stars that doesn't look like anything. And this is where I end up using GHS. It has a type called ArcSine H, and it works really well with halos. Stars generally don't have color, but the halos do. So this brings out the halos really well, and then you can basically saturate those halos and create some really pretty stars with it. So I use this ArcSine H. I don't send anything to the symmetry point on this. I just leave it at 0. And I'll usually, let me get a preview open. I want to find some bright stars, roughly bright stars. So I'm going to pick these two. So I'm going to zoom in pretty close on these. I'm going to pull on the stretch, and you'll see it really pulls some nice halos out. You can see this is just white, pure white in the center, and the halos have color. So I usually pull it out to about 2 times the width of the white part. Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it needs a little bit more, but I don't want to go too crazy here. So I'm going to take that change. And once again, that's what it would look like if I took the next change. So I'm just going to undo that. And this is the star field that I have. That's not bad. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Let's bump the colors on that. So I've got some nice pretty stuff here, but these stars are a little listless at this point. So I'm going to open up curves again, put it on saturation, pull it up just a tiny bit. And I'm just going to sit here and tap on this apply button until I get the colors I want. Let me try one more. So this is the next change. So I can just undo that and not take it and close that. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not too bad. I've got some nice blue stars down here, some red stars there. So actually pretty nice field. That's not bad. Oops. And I just locked my computer. Okay. All right. So that's my field. I've got some nice pretty stars in there as well. So that's pretty cool. So now I have built some icons over on the side. Basically, this is the exact formula that Photoshop uses when you use the screen function. This is the exact function straight from there. So I stole this formula all day. I didn't make this formula. This is not mine. But this is the formula, and that's why it needs to be named Starless and Stars, because it's picking very specific frames called Starless and Stars out of what I basically have in the application. So once you've done that, you can just take it and drag it on your picture, and bam, there's my stars. So that's not bad. That actually, I think I like that better than the last time I did it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Your star field didn't have a hole in the center where the big nebula was.
That's correct, because there's stars all the way through.
The code is smart enough to pull the stars.
There's
out
stars
of
in
the
here.
nebula.
Okay, valid point.
It is
Yeah.
an impressive piece of software.
Yeah. So it pulls all the stars.
Got it.
All the stars.
Yep.
It's brilliant.
So it is quite good.
That's why it's not free.
Well, that's true. That's exactly why it's not free, because it's very, very good. So that's not bad. So
Marty, to
Yeah.
print that, you would get this to look like this, right? To make it
printing astrophotos is an interesting piece of fun, because nobody knows how to do it properly. So there are some websites out there now that understand processing astrophotos reasonably well. So what I would do is I would export this in the highest format that they would take, like maybe a TIFF, and then I would send them the TIFF and they would print it. So I've had some luck with that on a few different websites, but most of them they print portraits, they print landscapes, they do a really good job at that.
on my wall.
But the colors are always iffy. The sky's never, the level of gray you want it,
Have
right?
you-
Because it's not black.
You have printed them someday. Where do you?
I have printed a few.
Where do you recommend?
God, it's been a while. I'm trying to remember which one I used. I'd have to look. I'd have to go look. I
I
don't
did
remember.
one just as a test case on a
Yeah.
little 10 by 10 acrylic test case, and I went through Bay Photo, and I thought it came out pretty good.
That's interesting. Bay photo. So well, it's San Francisco?
You send them, you go to their website, you upload the file. The biggest option is, do you want them to color correct or not? And most people think, I've already done all that. I don't want that done, except they color correct it for their printing process.
Yes, they're color
So you
correcting
always
for their
say
paper
yes,
and everything else,
and
right?
they will make it
Yeah.
look on their paper like it looked on your photo.
So how large is that file you just did? I know you can make it any size, but for like 300 dots per inch or whatever.
These are raw, right?
Right.
I'm not processing I haven't exported it as a TIFF or a JPEG or anything. So in this case, they're 6248 by 4196. They are straight APS-C right off the chip. So I'm processing them as raw as I
If you
can
want
get them.
300 PPI out of that, you're gonna get a pretty big print, right?
Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah. Tremendous in size.
Yeah, there's
it's
so-
it's going to be pretty good
So you
size.
said them at TIFF, which is not compressed.
Well,
Is that
it's a little
required?
compressed,
A little
right?
bit? Okay. So JPEGs are wickedly compressed.
JPEGs are shockingly
Are
over
lossy,
compressed.
So lossy. It's just good for vacation photos.
Yeah, it's fine for displaying on Instagram,
Right.
but it's not very good for anything else.
It's perfect for something the size of a phone.
So then.
Yeah. So I wanted to process something from that. So Marcy's been taking pictures with that. So I got it. What do you get on Valentine's Day on the 14th? So we've had it since then. I am going to mount it out in the observatory at some point, just so that it's up and it's usable all the time. Right now, we're taking it outside and setting it down. And it's also, as you can see, it is alt-azimuth, right? It is not polar aligned in any way. So the most you can get out of it, even at 50 millimeter, I think it comes out to like 250 millimeter focal length
Right.
is what it comes out to. 10 seconds. Anything more than 10 seconds, all the stars are streaks, right? It's just the sky is moving too fast. Then the other problem you have is rotation, right? So if you're going to process the pictures are doing this. They're rotating, right? Because it's alt-azimuth. The sky's actually doing this, and I'm just turning this way, right? So you're getting this weird rotational view. So 10 seconds is about all you can possibly stand.
Plus, when you put all those together, you actually crop out a huge amount of the.
Yeah, you have to.
To get a center.
Because
common
the
center
frame
piece.
is doing this, right? So at some point you've got all these stacking artifacts around the edges, and you got to chop all those out. And the longer, the worse it is. You'll end up with square at some point, right? If you took pictures from the eastern horizon all the way to the western horizon all night, you'd get a square when it was done.
Which is about maybe 20% of the combined image.
Right. So it's not great for that, but it will do equatorial. So I just haven't done it yet. So that's something I'm going to set up. But I just wanted to show you what you get out of that. Taking it outside, setting it on the ground, hooking it to your phone and going, I want to look at M42. And it's shocking. It is absolutely brutally shocking what you get out of this thing. I cannot believe it. So this is one of the images that Marcy took.
And what did this cost?
I believe that I
500?
stacked this.
Yeah, it's
Or-
549 now.
That's,
Yeah.
I think that's what I stacked.
Well, the
That's
tariffs.
not yours.
Tariffs, yeah.
Stop. I'm just glad I got my Mac from China before they kicked in.
Understood. It's like at some point it's like, do what I want or I'll punch myself in the face. It's like, never mind. Sorry, rant over. Okay, fine. So I wanted to go through this M42 image, and I'll just go ahead and nuke it and show it to you. That is shocking from that. It is absolutely brutally shocking how much you get for it. So we can improve upon this, right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to have to plate solve it. So under scripts, in this particular one, under image analysis, I have an image solver.
Because it doesn't do that as part of its data collection.
Yeah, that's not doing it, although I don't understand why, because every ASI air on the planet does.
Well, it has
But-
to know where it's pointing when you say look at something.
Exactly. So in this case, I'm just going to tell it what it is. It's M42.
My sun image, you can actually see granules on the sun with that.
It does a really good
It's
job.
amazing how good the sun.
Does it
images
have a
turn out.
sun filter?
Mhm.
Do you have to add it yourself or is it
Yeah,
got
it's just
built in?
the little tiny round thing you just stick on the lens.
I actually set mine up in EQ mode the other night for the first time.
Was it pretty easy?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad yet.
Do you have an adjustable thing, or like I don't have anything to like tweak it with. I have a fat, nasty tripod with a big head on it that is going to be really sturdy and really secure, but it's loosen, move, tighten.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Is that what you have?
I had an adapter. I had a Newtonian on a equatorial
Sure.
mount, and so I took off the telescope and put that on there. And so yeah, like you said, yeah.
Have a
Loosen
wedge
things
made
up
to
and
your
tighten
exact
them up.
latitude and then it's a piece of cake.
Okay.
No, it's just,
that's all. I promise you, that's a lot of money for what probably doesn't need it. At 250 millimeter, how accurate do you really have to be, right? And because to be fair, I think the max you can get is like 30 seconds, right? Or well, it's
Yeah.
not even 30 yet, right? It's like
Well,
20.
It's got a 10, 20, and 30 on it.
It's got a 30. Okay,
I
so
did have
they did
something
bump it to
on
30.
mine in the equatorial on a 30
Nice.
second.
It even, mine drops the 10 seconds even a lot. You
Yeah.
keep seeing, well, I won't stack that, I won't stack that.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if I was pointing at the wrong part of the sky that was moving too much
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, right? If you're pointed towards the poles, the sky's just making this motion. When you're pointed up here, it's doing this, right? It's really cranking.
Yeah.
So
In-
makes a big difference.
In film days, I would have been thrilled with any of these that I've gotten out of this.
So I am gonna
The problem is, I can't compare my
Try and get a
stuff to
gradient.
his.
Yeah, I'll pull in my M42 here in a second.
yeah, but you got about, what, maybe 20% the investment in hardware?
20.
10%? I don't know what I
God.
Okay,
Holy
5% of
crap.
the investment and
That's being generous.
5% of the time. Because it does most of it for you.
What's sad is that with my tiny little hands, I can't carry that. I can't even get it in and out of the case because I can't get my hand on it enough to pull it.
The one really, really nice thing about these pictures, if you want to stack them, they're tiny. I mean, Pixinsight rips through them like in
You
seconds.
should do my
It's
M1
brutal.
because I'm still waiting. To see
I
that.
know, I got to get around to it.
See, he
All right.
doesn't want to stack my lame little pictures.
It's not that I don't want to stack them, it's just time. So, once again, histogram, because I am brilliantly stupid at GHS. So, that one.
But you know, the cool thing about that, I can stargaze inside where I'm warm.
Me too.
You know,
If I don't blow up my roof controller.
or burn it down with, hot
Well,
components.
Let out the magic smoke.
Well, here's the crazy part is, so I'm in there, it's dark, it's 4 a.m., I can't get the thing to open. I go out there, and I mean, the web page works, everything's fine, but it will not perform the task of opening. The buttons don't work on the manual control, nothing works. So I open it up and I look, it's like, well, if the fuse was blown, I couldn't see it at all, right? So that's stupid. So I don't even know why I opened the damn thing up. So fine. Anyway, I opened the web page up, I said, set it back to defaults, and then I hit the full open button, and it was daylight inside. And it was a diode that couldn't have been that big square, and it literally lit the whole inside of it up, and now it works fine. It's like, okay,
You know,
that diode obviously was not very important.
That should be on our security camera.
It might be, yeah, it could be, but I got a new one, so that was pretty crazy. It was like, what in hell is going on? So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. All right, I
That
overdid
is
that a bit.
incredible.
It is astonishing what you get.
He pulled the trapezium out of mine too. He's like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And there's more detail in here. I mean, if we pull carefully, we can get basically some of this stuff without burning the center out. And the detail down in here is absolutely astonishing.
My problem with it is everybody's picture looks the same
Well,
because it centers on the object you're pointing at. I mean, it's going to vary by color and how you process it. It's like they're all framed identical.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm that way with my terrestrial photography. I'll go to some famous landmark and I'll take the picture.
you take the same shot that everybody else
It's the same
takes.
picture that
Yeah.
10 million other people took, but I took it.
But on astrophotos, it's usually slightly different, except everything I've seen, I'm on quite a few forums on Facebook, and it's like every picture of an object looks the same except for saturation and color or whatever.
Yeah, everybody processes a little bit differently.
It's art.
Maybe I'll put little rabbit ears at the bottom of mine so you'll know it's me.
So far away. Something so far away and so beautiful.
Yeah, I did all the Messier clusters in Riga the other night.
See, there's the actual trapezium. I mean, it grabbed it. I mean,
Not too
it's
well.
absolutely shocking. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, so every night it's like, Marty has to run it outside for me and bring it back inside for me.
But do you have the other
Oh.
stars already open, still open?
Yeah, it's okay with me. I'll just get rid of that one.
Yeah, I have a dumb Dobson, I don't have any way of guiding it or anything other than by hand, and I just have so much more fun with my C-Star than I do that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a fun little toy. They're supposed to come out with a Pro and maybe a S70.
The cool thing about that is if you're going out, say, going camping somewhere, you just grab that, throw it in the back. You
Yep.
don't You go outside, if you're in a nice dark spot camping, you just set it up.
Honestly, the 30, the solar filter on the 30 is magnetic, and it's a squeeze fit on that one. But for like eclipses and stuff, set it up, tell it where it is, point it at the sun, and off it goes. And at some point, basically, I get the timer on your phone that says when to pull the filter. The problem with that was you got to grab it and pull the damn filter.
Yeah,
Whereas the 30, you just
The 30 is just
Yeah.
boom, it's off.
pops right
Yeah,
off.
if it's hard
So,
on that, it's really.
But I mean, seriously, that's insane. That is literally nuts for what it is. It's absolutely crazy. So, with that said,
Yeah, see, now he's gonna make this look bad because, he's pulling at this.
Side by side.
yeah, I'll leave it there. Good Lord. It is a lot bigger picture. So,
I got the horse head too at, 10 or 12 minutes?
yeah, the horse head was fantastic. Shockingly
That's
good.
pretty
Which I never got on film other than like some little shadow there,
Right.
Just the problem is that whole thing is a winter constellation, and I'm just too much of a wuss to go out in the cold and set everything. I don't have an observatory. I have to drag everything outside and set it up. Pain.
So,
I did mine in February
Well, this winter
because
is
your cats are warm and you get the,
yeah,
once in a while.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So I won't run through a full process on this, but I mean, you can see there's a lot more blues to be had for sure. So the color on this is a little,
Weak.
it seems a little red
I think it's weak.
to me,
It's not very saturated.
but and there's a huge gradient on that, which technically I could get rid of.
I have to admit, I've had fun with it.
Well, maybe the next, when that comes out, it'll be brighter. I don't
Alright,
know,
so-
I think that's pretty
no,
darn
it's just
good.
weak because it's 10-second.
Yeah, it's the time frame. There's,
Yeah.
I mean,
You just
one of the
want as
best
much light as you
telescopes
can
that's ever been made is that William Optics Red Cat 51. I don't know why everything's got to be 1. Even my refractor's a 91.
Yeah,
It's
I've got
like-
a 71.
Yeah, yours is 71. Exactly right.
Wow.
So anyway, I mean, you can see there's a lot of difference in how much data is collected, but this is also a lot more shots across multiple nights, and it is way overexposed. I think these were 30-second shots, and the core is absolutely blasted out,
Yeah.
unrecoverable. So, but I got a lot of stuff out here. Down here, there's some dust stuff that I can pull out pretty easy with processing.
That's what makes this one of the hardest ones to shoot, is because you not blowing out the core.
Yeah, your processing has to be spot on as well.
Well, and you have to really limit your exposure time.
So I did want to, I mean, I don't know how long we've been going, to be honest.
It's 10 after 8.
Is that long?
I'm good. I'm enjoying this.
I just wanted to show some of the stuff that I've gotten out of the observatory. I have not been shooting with filters. I've been shooting with an straight IR cut here lately, just because
All broadband then.
I just don't really feel like I have to. Whatever gradients I get just doesn't seem to be that big a deal. They're easily corrected out, so I haven't really bothered with it. But this is a nice little collection of sharpless bright nebulas. So these were pretty cool. I actually stumbled across this just playing around. I did this with Nina on the refractor again. I just got the Paramount running, so I don't have anything to show from the 8-inch.
Finally
Nothing,
got it all
nothing yet.
figured out, huh?
I finally got it running in a way that I'm not completely and utterly displeased. So let me run that.
You have all these already processed though, right?
I have some processed versions of these, but I figured we could run through this one pretty quick. It's not going to be too big a deal. But I do have this somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. process basically for me it's pretty repetitious in the sense that I do the same thing a lot. But it's because I just get decent results out of it, so I don't tend to change the process very much unless I have
It's
to.
really funny, if you have somebody on cloudy nights, the best process, you'll ask 10 people and you get 12 different answers. And for each one of them, it's the process that works for them.
Yeah. It's absolutely the case.
The problem with Pixinsight, if there's 5 ways to do something, it'll give you 7 options. It takes a while to figure out which one.
Whatever works, all right.
Yeah, Pixinsight can be a real
San Diego from-
challenge.
I'm still intimidated as hell by it.
Yeah, I don't think I have to be intimidated by it. Honestly, the stacking is brutal simplicity, right? Open the script, tell it where all your shit is,
Weighted
go.
batch.
Yeah, just go. So that's not too hard.
I've
So
always used APP for stacking because it just seems to be much faster and provides almost as good an answer. I watch people,
yeah,
they have a 20-hour process for stacking in Pixinsight, and I'll run mine in 2, and it'll look as good.
All the gauges still, once I got one.
But you can't process for crap in APP.
Oh, okay, it's like.
I can't.
yeah. I found Cyril to be the same. I found it brutally hard to get anything out of it.
So I want to learn how to use this. You worked with me that one day, and that was what, 9 months ago?
It's been a while.
I've forgotten everything.
That's why it's not completely.
Well, don't forget everything. Just forget some of it.
Well, I'm gonna reinstall everything on the new computer, and then once I do, I'd like to get back with you.
Really? Yeah. Now, so I'll just base them all.
This one was hard to process because of all the background kind of crap that came with it.
I like that. Say he's got some cool pictures.
But it was kind of a unique image, and I just thought it was really cool.
All my new bands, scan into PDFs, and I store on a year basis.
All right, so
Destroy the paper after.
What kind of paper, like bills?
Yeah.
Okay.
oops.
So anyway,
Once again, you cannot noise exterminate a preview.
Oh, it's just, you know, you get electric bill, I can download it now, though.
Yeah, I can download it now.
Honestly, I went and looked at this because of this dark nebula. That's why I went and looked at it.
Oh, that's in front of it, so it's.
Yep. And then it just turned out that there was a really nice sharpless bright nebula in the middle of it too. It was like, all right, well, I'll take that. That didn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, it's sheet feed, that's front and back.
Well, that's nice.
It is fast. Nothing, I've been trying
It's not
to
all
trash
one,
it.
is it? It's not also a printer, is it?
No, no,
Oh, I hate those.
it's just-
I hate them. It's like almost every time.
I
The
hope
printer
so.
screws up, you know, like the, if it's the inkjet, one goes out, and you have to buy all of them, it's like, and ink printers are expensive.
So are you still
So you
missing
just-
with the C-Star photo?
And eventually the inkjets quit working.
Is that?
No, this is one of his.
So I always buy them separate. I have a flatbed scanner with the.
Yeah, I should have just brought the
computer.
finished
I
ones.
tell you, that's the reason. I mean, 20 years old. I spent extra money.
All right, happy with that.
Well, you know, but back then they gave you spare parts.
Oh, really?
I haven't used it.
All right.
One of the first
Yeah.
pictures I took was Andromeda, and my finished version of it, somebody else did for me, and sent me a JPEG of results, which isn't really what I wanted.
Yeah,
I have-
JPEG's not a
So
good
when I've been
answer.
trying, I've tried to go back into Pixinsight and reproduce what they did. I got nothing. I think it came out pretty good. I just need some
Good if you let them sit there.
guidance to get through that one.
Honestly, I think most of the time you just need to play,
So.
especially in the
But
curves,
you don't understand how
right?
my brain works. I'm an engineer OCD.
I don't
and it's like,
understand.
I keep finding I've overdone something, I've done the wrong approach, and you turn too many knobs, and you've completely destroyed it. I start over, and I turn all the knobs differently, and I still don't
Yeah.
like it, and I just I'm like pulling my hair out, because I can't get there from here. Too many knobs.
You're gonna have to be happy with the fact that it's never gonna be the same.
I get that, but I can't even get something that looks anywhere what I want.
Samsung, I just like, this is great.
Yeah,
I got some narrowband stuff for the Heart Nebula, and I took the exact same picture previously with wideband. I was hoping I could kind of merge those together.
So
I got nothing.
But then I'll tell you
Same
what,
price point,
yeah.
both sides.
Bill Blanchard.
Probably more than any other.
Just go to his website, steal his scripts. They're beautiful. They work every time.
It's because they try it out.
For narrowband.
So that's why.
So anyway, that's what I got.
Use Pixinsight, too.
So
I don't know, because.
I'll leave the rest of it out. It just takes too long.
Yeah.
I like to avoid each.
He gets
I may go.
So, do you have any other particular questions?
I don't. Way back when, after the comment, I had asked if you could help me process the comment pictures, and then you were in the middle of
Yeah.
getting your observatory put together, so I
Yeah.
didn't bother you. But
Well, it's still not done.
well, it probably never will be.
Well, it's not done in a really bad state right now. Like I haven't finished the trim. I haven't finished the roofing. Well, it's there. It's got to get caulked. It's got to get painted. It's got to get weather. I've got some more weather sealing to do before it gets real rainy. So
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a stick with all the stuff, but I'd rather you've got the time and the willingness is to sit down with you and
Yeah.
watch you go through the process, or